Yashasvi Surya, you promised hope, you've delivered despair.
Rahul, sorry, but she still hasn't answered your question. The question of the political import of not allowing non-dynasts to rise in the party. That was the spirit of the question that you posed, and she's very conveniently sidestepped the whole thing. I still want her to go back and answer that.
I was answering some of the rhetorical statements that my friend here made. I thought countering them with facts will perhaps make him give a clarification.
Madam, I'm really, this is I'm telling you, I really want the Congress party to have someone like you as its national president. Someone who is articulate enough like you.
You are trying to get her into trouble.
No, I'm not going to get into trouble.
I'm trying to honestly tell you, I'm trying to fight for India's democracy.
No, I think this question has gone on for so long. I will answer that question for you. I don't just come for TV debates or conclaves. I also work tirelessly in a rural constituency of Maharajganj, back of beyond in Uttar Pradesh. When I go there and when I meet the Congress women and men and I ask them who your leader is, and if 9 out of 10 people there say Rahul Gandhi or 10 out of 10 people say Rahul Gandhi, I can't come to Chennai or Delhi and be fashionable and say, yes, let's get somebody else. I think the leader of the Congress party has to be decided by the Congress workers. And if the workers believe in a certain individual, so be it. I don't give anybody the right to decide that for me.
Sure, but can I just
Even in a new India.
Supriya, if you say who should be the leader and they say Rahul Gandhi, one of the reasons that they say Rahul Gandhi is because they know no other leader. If somebody else had been given an opportunity, let's assume that you say who's the captain of the Indian team and people say Virat Kohli, correct. But when Virat Kohli makes way and Ajinkya Rahane comes in, he can lead India to victory against all odds in Australia. One of the problems with the Congress seems to be the complete disbelief or the inability to believe that there can be a future without the Gandhi family.
Actually, let me turn that question around. It's not disbelief. It is belief that he is our leader. He sets the narrative. He sets the tone. He puts this government in the dock, and which is why the argument keeps coming back to us. Why don't you have a different leader? I think that's a question for us to decide. If I am here representing the Congress party, it is my right to choose my leader. I'm not going to allow you or Tejasvi or anybody else to tell me who my leader should be. I'm asking questions on whose India it is and what is new India.
But
why am I not getting an answer there?
We're coming to that. But
yes.
Your leader also seems confused. Let's assume you have a leader like Modi or Amit Shah, who's certain that he has a certain conception of India, he wants to take India into the future, he's willing to work 24/7, 365 to achieve that. Good, bad, ugly, you can argue about that, but he has a vision. Your leader seems thoroughly confused about whether he even wants the job, doesn't want the job, wants to fight, go off for Vipassana, go to Italy, stay in India, go into the sea for a swim in Kerala, etc. How you can be a leader if you're convinced that you want to stay in the battleground and fight?
You know, as an aside, I just think Mr. Modi should start working a little less. Working so tirelessly, 18 hours, 24 hours a day, and landing us with 8% and first-time recession. Let's work a little less. Let's take a few breaks. Let's come with some refreshed ideas instead of the same rhetoric of polarization, instead of the same rhetoric of New India, which are nothing but empty words. As far as my leader is concerned, I think he consistently questions this government. He wants to do the role of the opposition as well as he could. But what does the opposition need? The opposition today needs a very, very strong media, a media that is willing to ask some tough questions, and an independent judiciary. With all due respect to a profession that continues to be my first love, I don't see very many independent journalists today willing to ask questions. Petrol prices are at 100. How many TV channels have done shows?
We've done many shows. You've been on our show.
You may be an exception. A Swedish company, in its report, has accepted they have bribed Indian ministers. And there is pin-drop silence. Forget at the government, even within the media. How many primetime televisions have questioned what is this scam? Who has been paid? Because this is a government report and it very categorically says that ministers and chief ministers in this country have been bribed. Is it not the prerogative of the media to question this? If this was 2012, would we see this on primetime television or not? That's a question.
But you've seen it on TV when the press conference happened, it was covered widely. But I want to build on
Rahul,
what Supriya
how many
is saying.
TV shows primetime on this?
You can't answer for what the Aam Aadmi Party is doing. You say we are the exception, I can't answer for what the others do. Our conscience is clear, we speak truth to power and we do it as best as we can. But Supriya has some questions, which is the contrast between rhetoric and fact. You promised hope, she alleges that you delivered despair, that we're in the middle of a recession out of which we're just emerging out of. The fact also is that unemployment is high. Farmers of Punjab, Haryana, Western UP are sitting on now a protest for more than 100 days. She also says that freedom of speech is under threat and youngsters are feeling stifled. So compare the rhetoric that you promised and the delivery on the ground. Tejaswi.
Well, insofar as the recession allegation is concerned, all of us have, even Supriya ji lives in the same world as we do. All of us are aware that the COVID pandemic affected not just India but around the world, and all countries across the world are facing a huge economic challenge. So we are not isolated from that. And it's only this government which has managed to save both lives and livelihood, is why the recovery from the recession has been so effective and so real. Insofar as the farmers' question is concerned, in my opening remarks, I told that this country, under the name of Nehruvian socialism, chose to keep India deliberately poor. The governments after governments practicing the same brand of Nehruvian socialism were experts at redistributing poverty and never for an ounce created prosperity in the country. And this was done by creating hundreds of laws, hundreds of regulations. And for the first time in India's history, this government has consistently, not just in the farm sector, but across the economy, tried to unshackle the Indian economy and give the young Indian farmer as well as the entrepreneur his freedom to choose the way he wants to run his business, the way he wants to run his farm, and the way he wants to sell his proceeds. So dialogue is necessary. The very fact that the government has been speaking continuously, engaging continuously with a handful of farmers from 2 states, Punjab and Haryana, is also a testimony to the fact that this is a government which is sensitive, which wants to indulge in dialogue. Across the country, other than the 2 states, farmers are very happy with these farm laws. Insofar as the question of young people, jobs, everything is concerned, Rahul, there is only one fact that I want to place on record here. This government under the Prime Minister has lifted the highest number of Indians out of poverty ever. Highest number of Indians out of poverty ever have been lifted by this government. And this could not be done without creating jobs. This could not have been done without creating infrastructure. This could not have been done without managing the macroeconomy well.